Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about misconceptions and excuses that are used when it comes to misgrooving a lift. And it's something that people use as an excuse oftentimes instead of using it as a learning tool, which is what they should be using it for. And realistically, when someone says, I missed that lift because I misgrooved, okay, that's a cop-out. That's a very, very weak ass excuse. Because here's what I'm going to say. Why do we misgroove a lift? Because we have muscle weaknesses. Okay? We have muscle weaknesses. You should be able to find your groove on the ramp up on any lift. Okay? You should find your groove. When we ramp up to a max, if I give you a new exercise that you have never done in your life, right? Let's say you've been doing nothing but using a straight bar, maybe some box squats, things like that, and I throw a football bar with chains at you and tell you to box squat that and take it to a 1 rep max. Well, as you ramp up, you find your groove, right? Even though you've never done that before, you might not have ever squatted with a football bar before. You may have never squatted with chains before. But you find your groove. You get under it. You start feeling how it feels. You start ramping up and you find the groove on that lift. You'll also find your weak muscles. And if you get pulled out of your groove, like let's say you're doing that lift and you get pulled forward and you dump the bar. Did you misgroove? Some people would call it that. Well, I let myself get pulled too far forward. Same thing with bench press. I let the bar get pulled too far over my face. Well, how does this happen? Do you not know how to lift? I mean, if someone's a novice lifter who's never been coached correctly to lift, or they've never been trained to lift, they've never learned how to set up, they've never learned how to brace, okay, I get that. But if you're not a novice lifter, why do you misgroove? I don't know, maybe your upper back wasn't strong enough. You couldn't stay upright on the squat. You couldn't keep the upper back from caving against that safety bar because your T-spine, your thoracic erectors, maybe your mid-traps and everything were just too weak to do it. Now you call it a misgroove because you got pulled out of your groove, but why did you get pulled out of your groove? You couldn't handle that weight due to a muscle weakness, right? Your quads might have been strong enough. Your glutes might have been strong enough. But the second that weight that pulls you forward with that bar, especially with those chains on it, and the weight started adding up as you went up, as soon as you hit a certain point, close to your sticking point, it started dragging you forward because you have a weak upper back. And it pulled you out of your groove. Right? Pulled you out of your groove. But if you had just had a stronger upper back, would it have pulled you out of your groove? No. You would have locked it, or your quads would have given out and you would have just dropped straight down without being pulled out of your groove. You would have just been pulled straight down. Same thing with benching. Oh, I missed that bench and the bar drifted. Well, if it drifted too far over your face and you missed it, what happened? Or your triceps are weak. You didn't misgroove it. You didn't misgroove it. Your triceps weren't strong enough to keep the bar in its right path. And it drifted because you didn't have the muscular strength. And I don't care whether it's fatigue or whatever else. If you're just fatigued and the primary movers are fatigued and you can't handle a given weight that day, what's going to happen? You're going to hit your sticking point and the bar is going to go straight down on a single. It's going to go straight down. You're not going to get pulled out of your groove. You're just going to go straight down because the weight was just too damn heavy. It was too heavy for you as a complete lift. A misgroove, where something takes the bar out of the intended bar path, that's a muscular weakness. And it could be a whole lot of things. It could be your abductors. It could be your triceps. It could be your upper back. There could be a whole lot of things. It could be your delts. Depends on the lift, and it depends on how you misgroove. Okay. This is why we need to get rid of muscular weaknesses. And this is one of the reasons why guys like me use this system that I do with the conjugate stuff, to where we test dozens of different variations for maxes. Number one, we learn how to find our groove and pull ourselves into a groove when things go wrong, because we're always having to hit new lifts. You always learn to be strong when pulled in a different position than your classic lift, either direction. Because that's what happens, right? When we start switching bars and accommodations and messing with a lot of these things, we get pulled in different directions. We learn how to stay in our groove when handling a big, heavy, awkward weight. Okay, and then you look for your weak links. You start looking where those lifts break down. Okay. If the football bar with chains pulls you forward halfway up into a taco squat because your upper back caves, isn't there the potential for that to happen on any squat? It just highlights it more. It means you need to work on that area. Okay, we don't use misgroove as an excuse for missing a lift. Okay, a misgroove is indicative of a weakness. It's indicative of a muscular weakness. That's exactly what it is. Because we don't miss lifts because of that. And if you do, you got major muscle weaknesses. And you know, who are the guys who complain usually about the misgrooves the most? The people with very, very high specificity training. And I'm not saying that doesn't work, by the way. Well, people do understand that people say, but this guy and this guy's a champion, and they do the ultra high specificity training. They just do their classic lifts with a little bit of supplemental work and tons of volume on it, and they're strong. It's like, that's good, but those are also the guys who complain about missed grooves. They're also guys who get overuse injuries more often. Just gonna throw that out there. They complain about missed grooves because they're not used to anything going wrong. They're used to repping and doing 4s and 5s and everything in their groove on that classic lift. And they haven't built the support musculature for if something gets pulled out of place. And when something does start to go in the wrong direction, they may not have built the support musculature to pull it back into its groove. Okay? Because it's one thing, and people, I've seen people use that excuse, well, it's fatigue, they were having a bad day. Well, that just means you're going to lift less weight. In other words, a 500-pound max on a bad day might be a 460 or a 470 max, right? You might lose 5 or 10% of your max strength on a really bad day where you're sleep deprived and everything's wrong. But the weight just goes straight down. Okay. That's a weight that's just too heavy for you entirely. And that's okay. We know that. When a weight just goes straight down with no form breakdown, what's that tell us? Well, that tells us is that you exceeded your max. That means it was 101% of your 1 rep max. Or more. If the form degrades, okay, let me put it 2 ways. If the form degrades and you missed it, you have a major muscle weakness. Right, you have something serious that you need to address. If the form degrades and you lock it and you still make the lift because you were just strong enough to push through, which is the ideal scenario, you at least know what you need to work on. Meaning you still have those muscle weaknesses. They're just not so bad that you're missing lifts. You're able to use compensatory strength and grind through and lock a heavy weight in spite of the muscle weaknesses that are there because you have enough compensatory strength. Now that is our ideal scenario. You get to a comp or whatever, and you may have to do that. And you prepare for those eventualities. Maybe you get so strong on certain supplemental lifts that if you get pulled out of your groove in a certain way, you're still able to lock it. But you need to address those weaknesses still. They still need to be addressed because you got pulled out of your groove. And getting pulled out of your groove on any lift means that there's something wrong. There's something physical that we need to fix in your musculature. but that's fixable. It's a learning tool. It's not a reason for missing a lift. The muscle weakness is a reason for missing the lift. Either way, we use it as a tool to fix it. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.